Welcome to KP Law News Arkansas in the studio for this video. Man, this is crazy. This is not a Arkansas story, but this is a story I think needs to be reported on or put out there as it is getting national attention from all the major media outlets and just a bad, blatant regard for the First Amendment, freedom of the press. Probably heard about it by now, but police raided a newspaper out there in Marion, Kansas. They even raided the home of the owner, the reporters, and ended up being a bad deal. So I got been scouring the news feeds. I got some video here. We're going to go over, tell you what's going on out there in Marion, Kansas. It's bad, disgusting. All right, let me see. Here we go. This first news article or news story is from CBS News out there in Topeka, Kansas.
We're raiding the offices of a local newspaper in the home of its publisher and owner, Eric Meyer.
Officers seized computers, cell phones, and other reporting materials from the Marion County Record Office. Meyer also claims the raid put so much stress on his 98-year-old mother that it contributed to her death over the weekend. Sherman Smith joins us now. He is the editor-in-chief of another publication in the state, the Kansas Reflector. Thank you for joining us. We want to get to the backstory in just a minute, but first of all, the big question is, was this raid legal?
Yeah, thank you for having me. You know, it's an unsettling situation, no. And the federal law, the Privacy Protection Act is designed to prevent exactly this kind of raid. Police say that there's an exception to that rule if they have reason to believe that a journalist is actively involved in a crime. But the attorneys that I've talked to said that the activity of the reporter in question doesn't come anywhere near the level of a crime, certainly not the alleged identity theft that justified or supported the search warrant in this case.
I mean, you'd think these guys were violating national security laws or something like that, Sherman, but that isn't what was going on here. Give us a sense of what exactly police were allegedly looking for.
Yeah, there's a restaurant operator in town who is applying for a liquor license. Somebody sent information to the newsroom about a reporter typed her driver's license number and date of birth into an online database to verify the records that she had received. But ultimately, they decided that it wasn't newsworthy enough to warrant a story. What police were looking for was any records related to this restaurant owner. They alleged that by typing this information in, that she'd committed identity theft and improper use of a computer. And so they were trying to gather that information. Now, the attorneys, of course, would say that this doesn't justify seizing everything in the newsroom as they did, or the personal home of the publisher.
That don't make sense.
It would be an overreaction at best. But also, there's no reason to think that this actually was identity theft. No reason to think that it was even a violation of the state law that prevents you from disseminating information you get from this database. It was simply a reporter doing due diligence.
So what happens next in all of this?
We expect that the newspaper will file some legal action as soon as today. Probably we'll start with requesting an injunction so that they can get their materials back. They're also weighing the possibility of various lawsuits to seek damages from this. There's also the outstanding issue of the affidavit that supported the search warrant. The court on Friday had told the Marion County Record that there was not an affidavit. I was able to get clarity on this this morning. They were not able to acknowledge an affidavit exists until the search warrant had been executed, but they do have the affidavit. And there's a process in Kansas where the local prosecutor has up to 5 days to challenge the release of that affidavit, and then the judge would make a ruling. It's also possible the prosecutor could waive that and it could be released immediately. And of course, first attorney groups have called for that immediate release of the affidavit so that we can see what really supported the search and seizure of an entire newsroom.
So this is somebody who was applying to run a restaurant and get a liquor license, who clearly may have had some friends in the police department, basically. And got them to basically break the law on their behalf.
This is a small town of about 2,000 people. There appear to be a lot of conflicts of interest. It's difficult to really unpack all of the small town drama here. But this is a woman named Carrie Newell who runs a restaurant in town. She was applying for a liquor license. And there was some issue here about whether a 2008 conviction for drunken driving should preclude her from getting a liquor license. So, she is the alleged victim. Police say they were acting on her behalf and trying to get to the bottom of this when they executed the search.
Well, maybe somebody can send the police officers a copy of the First Amendment or two. Chairman, we'll keep track of
you got it,
because it seems pretty outrageous. But we appreciate you sharing some details, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Send police officers a copy of the First Amendment. Yeah, that would be. They would probably need that, but man, it gets better. I think something's going on with the chief there. So this next video is I got it from the Wall Street Journal. So even the Wall Street Journal was covering this because this is big on the media. I mean, you can't go in there and raid a newspaper on crazy allegations or anything. I mean, that's just blatant disregard for the First Amendment. So like I said, a lot of the media outlets nationwide are jumping on this story. So here it goes. This is from the I guess the security camera inside the newspaper thing. So let's check this out. Surveillance video captured police teasing computers with the office's small Kansas newspaper. Two software simultaneously searched some of the newspaper's owners' homes of the newspaper's owners. We had been investigating the police chief. This is the owner.
And let me digress just a little bit and say that they seized the computers, my computer, one reporter's computer, and another reporter's computer. The second reporter's computer was the one who'd been investigating the police chief.
Oh, wow. Oh, they had been investigating the police chief. Oh. Wow. So there's more to the story. Raids came after a tip to the paper that restaurant had liquor license. Wow. Yeah, she was probably friends with the chief. Had buddies in the police department. Chief got mad because the paper was investigating him, and he had issues himself. Apparently, he came from another department where he had sexual assault allegations, I believe. It's just deeper than just raiding a newspaper. And Dow Jones wrote to the chief condemning it. Wall Street Journal. Hey, hold on.
An exception to that rule.
I went back to this next story is the chief himself. The reporter tried to I'll show it as soon as I go re-cue this up. But man, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. All right, this is a reporter going in to the police chief, and he's not going to have anything to do with it. All right, let me find this good spot here. I screwed this all up. All right, you have to watch the rest of this one. All right, that's it. All right, come on, here we go.
They're the actual ones to do this.
It's just the chief
says that they weren't the one who issued the warrant. So can you tell me why instead of issuing a subpoena.
You realize how mad KBI will be angry at me if I start talking about their case at this point? To get a hold of Melissa Underwood, she'll give you information on
He's
that.
lying.
Started the investigation, correct?
Huh?
The investigation started with
I'll let KBI answer that, but you'll.
Did you request the warrant?
Wow.
Victims came
He's
forward,
guilty.
and so the paper decided not to run the story.
Guilty. Man, that's bad luck for the chief there. I believe we're going to get a major lawsuit out of this. The chief will probably get fired, maybe not. He might even get a charge. This don't look good for the old chief there. It's not good at all. All right, let me see.
Believes
just back up here. There we go.
Police actions and the stress was
more
too
to the
much
story.
For his 98-year-old mother who passed away
details.
one day after authorities raided her home and office.
Well, it's sad.
She wouldn't eat her dinner. She wouldn't eat breakfast. She wouldn't sleep. She sat up most of the night, muttering things like, "This is going to be the death of me." I tried to calm her down and say, I think maybe good will come out of this in the end, that something will be exposed and we'll be able to advance out of it. And she says to me, "I'll be dead by then."
Wow.
So joining us now to talk about this is News Nation legal contributor Jesse Weber. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on.
Great seeing you. Thanks for having me.
It is a convoluted case, but Jesse, does this latest development change the way that you are perceiving and tracking this case?
It just looks even worse than it already did. So there were so many legal questions that were arising about whether or not law enforcement has the right or authority to enter into a news organization and take their property. And I could go over why federal law protects news agencies and media organizations from that happening. But now to learn that the chief of police who was spearheading this raid may have been investigated by the very paper that he had his officers raid,
there we go.
It doesn't look good. And so what you're basically seeing is this puts the impetus on the police department to say, why did they feel justified to do this? I mentioned federal law. When you raid a news organization, typically speaking, the law requires a subpoena, not just a warrant, a subpoena. And so why they felt the need to raid the office and figuring there was this level of criminal activity that was going on, they now have to show cause for why that happened. And I have to tell you, from a PR point of view, it just looks really bad for the police department. But then again, they feel that they had the right to do it. We have to see what this investigation is going to
we are still waiting to hear what that justification is. And we know in addition to this new piece, the paper was also working to confirm information about a local restaurant owner's DUI. Eric Meyer believes that complaints from her could have also triggered the police response. But ultimately, do these raids just put even more of a spotlight on these stories? We are now talking about this on a national level.
And rightfully so, because this doesn't happen. We don't see this happen. And I believe this newspaper never saw anything like this happen. I mentioned the federal law, right? So generally speaking, law enforcement has the ability to enter into private residences or businesses if they believe there's probable cause a crime was committed. They can obtain materials, but news organizations are different. They're given extra protection. And so there's a reason we don't usually see this happen. Now, if you take what they say is true, that perhaps the newspaper was engaged in identity theft on a grand scale, if we take that as true, then they may have justification to go in there and see evidence of that. But what you're hearing about, this was a raid where somebody's finger was injured and cell phones were taken, and whether or not material was taken outside of what the search warrant was, and sadly, someone passed away as a result of the stress of this, that's where this enters into a different territory, and we're trying to make sense of why this happened.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it. I know you'll help us keep tracking this as well. Jesse Weber, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's from News Nation. And man, what a crazy story. The raid, like you said, went to the owner's house. The mother was part owner. She was 98 or something. And she was so upset about all this that she ended up passing away. So that's maybe some more charges against the chief if they even put any kind of charges against him. I don't know. This is going to be crazy how this plays out. You know, they probably have a major lawsuit, firing the chief, maybe with some charges. I don't know. It's bad, man. Total blatant. I think I said this 3 times already, but I want to say it again. Total blatant disregard for the First Amendment, freedom of the press. It's crazy, man. So we're going to keep an eye on this story. If we get more updates, I'll try to bring them right here to you. So I appreciate everybody watching. Oh, let me know down in the comments what y'all think about this. I think it's crazy. So I appreciate everybody watching. Everybody have a good day. KP Law News Arkansas out.